what we are saying, and this is Latvia's position, I hope the whole Europe's position, that Ukraine has to be at the table, not on the table when it comes to any negotiation whatsoever.
Let's bring in now Rihards Kols, a Latvian MEP. Rihards, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I note your posts on X comparing this to the Munich agreement of years gone by, now notorious, infamous for its failure at securing peace. It's worth saying we don't know the full details of what Trump wants to do. What is your concern?
Well, the concern is that literally it seems that Ukraine is kind of thrown under the tank. All the promises made, and we believe in the West part of the world in democracies that if you vouch for something, if you strike a deal, you honor that deal and you provide. So, of course, administration might change in the US, but we saw even under Biden, the security guarantees, the prospects, and so on. And now it's just suddenly vaporized. And this is something that really caused a lot of not only questions, but realization that both for NATO member states and EU member states, is this the new normal in 21st century where not only the autocrats regimes are, abolishing one agreement after another, but it's also infecting already the democratic part of the world as well. So this is, of course, there's a lot of rhetoric and coincides that now in today, tomorrow, and day after is the Munich conference. Somewhat resonates also the similarities from the 20th century. Of course, there are those who are saying that, look, the Munich conference was slightly different. There wasn't already a war in Czechoslovakia, and Czechoslovakia didn't even, protect. This is, it's not about what exactly happened on 1938, but the principle itself that you see that there's a clear intention. Nazi Germany under Hitler, its imperialistic ambitions to abolish independent countries' sovereignties. And this is exactly the modus operandi that we see from Putin's regime. And it's not just for the past 3 years. It's actually starting, in 2008, 9 with Georgia, then Crimea, and of course, full-scale war in 2022. And
I just want to come in, yes, because I think what you're saying is all absolutely valid. I suppose my point, and I think you may make this point as well, Richard, is that Donald Trump is stepping in where European countries have failed. There has not been peace. There has been no plan for peace presented by any European country other than Ukraine, and that was largely seen as perhaps not feasible. Donald Trump is intervening to try to make peace happen.
But then again, please define who said it's not feasible. Again, it's the one who can determine on what conditions any prospects for peace could be achieved is actually Ukraine. You cannot decide somebody's country, sovereign countries. It's still a sovereign country. Yes, part of it is it's occupied. It's a member of UN. It's not something in a vacuum. And you cannot just decide in some rooms. That's why there is references to Munich. I've been saying that actually what needed to be done for the past 3 years, there is a passivity from the European leaders when it comes to providing the full support to Ukraine that requires all these terms that we use, the peace through strength and so on. But we haven't delivered so far. So I've been actually arguing what is needed in the democratic part of the world. We have to have a Casablanca conference, for God's sake, where Churchill met, with the U.S. counterpart, and they decided that's it, full defeat of Nazi Germany, no negotiations. That should be as well with Russia. Again, of course, it's something that. Yes, I'm come from the Baltics, and maybe somebody says that we're taking too much emotionally what is happening in Russia. No, the thing is, what we understand, the modus operandi of Putin's regime, and most importantly, the mentality of the Russian people. It's not just, somebody also claimed that this is Putin's war. No, it's Russia's full-scale war. And the prospects for peace, if there's nothing, we have the Minsk 1, Minsk 2, now probably entering Munich 2, I would say 2. And this is something that you rightly say, that there is no clear leadership at the EU level. Yes, somewhat, I would say that was also the cause that, well, the last year was the super election year in the world, not only in Europe, but in the world. There was a lot of expectations, what might be changes as well in the European leadership as well, the European Parliament as well. And then the anticipations, how the election is going to end in the US. And I think a lot of was put on hold. And that was actually what didn't allow Ukraine fully protect itself and really decide the peace on the battleground. Right now, what we are saying, and this is Latvia's position, I hope the whole Europe's position, that Ukraine has to be at the table, not on the table when it comes to any negotiation whatsoever.
Rihards, you put it very neatly. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's good to speak with you. That is Rihards Kols, a Latvian MEP. Ukraine needs to be at the table, not on the table.
All right, is that everybody? Of course, we're going to talk about NATO, and particularly the President's desire to see NATO spend a little bit more resources on defense. And I know that's something Secretary General Rada agrees with me on. We're going to talk, of course, about the Ukraine-Russia conflict and how to bring it to a negotiated settlement. And I'm sure we'll talk about some other areas of cooperation, too. I mean, my high-level argument to these folks is, look, Europe is, of course, a very important ally of the United States. NATO is a very important military alliance, of course, that we're the most significant part of. But we want to make sure that NATO is actually built for the future, and we think a big part of that is ensuring that NATO does a little bit more burden sharing in Europe so that the United States can focus on some of our challenges in East Asia. So,
Europe stepping up, the European part of NATO stepping up, you're absolutely right. It has to be done. We have to grow up in that sense and spend much more. We also have to discuss the defense industrial base. Of course, this is a problem we have both in the US and in the rest of NATO. We are simply not producing enough. We are not keeping up with the Russians and the Chinese. And then, of course, Ukraine. How to bring Ukraine to a lasting peace. And no Minsk again. So it has to be lasting. Putin should never try it again. And how to get him into a place of maximum strength.
Great. Likewise. Thank you. See you. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, do you believe Ukraine should join NATO?
See you guys.
Should Europe be involved in
dauert. Der steht. Aber jetzt ist er drin. 3 Stunden 4 oder 3.